Welcome to me, where suspenseful, thrilling, and mysterious stories will draw you into a world where the lines between reality and fantasy seem to blur. When the night falls, when all the sounds gradually quiet down, leaving only your own heartbeat and breathing, that's when these stories begin. Tensions, unsolved mysteries, moments that will make you hold your breath in fear or curiosity, all are waiting for you ahead. Find a comfortable seat, dim the lights, and let this sound guide you on a journey that is not for the faint of heart. I want each of you to leave a comment sharing where you are in the world. And if you are enjoying the episodes, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel now. Relax. Are you ready? If so, join me in the first story right now. I've said too much. I noticed him the first time at the coffee shop on 3rd Street. He sat 2 tables over, stirring a cup of tea he never drank. He wasn't looking at me, not directly, but there was something in the way his head tilted, the way his eyes flickered over the rim of his cup, that made me feel observed. Every so often, he would blow on his mug, and eventually, this act became unsettling, as I knew the tea must have grown cold in the hour he sat unmoving. This man was dressed neatly, a stark contrast to myself, in a worn sweatshirt and messy bun that couldn't contain my red hair. He wore an ironed shirt, pressed pants, and his copper hair was immaculately combed and styled. He was remarkable because he simply did not belong. A bustling place with people moving in and out as he sat stoically with his tea. The second time was at the bookstore downtown. I was running my fingers along the shelves, searching for something to pull me in. Recently, I've been drawn to the paranormal and had moved into horror. It was terrifying, yet intriguing, as I began to imagine all there is out there that is unknown. As I perused the back of the latest Awad novel, I saw him standing in the philosophy aisle to my right. He wasn't reading, just tracing the spine of a book with one long finger. When I walked past, he looked up. "Not your usual genre," he said, nodding toward the horror novel in my hands. I frowned. "Excuse me?" He tilted his head. "You usually read literary fiction, something with layered metaphors, quiet heartbreak." A shiver danced down my spine. "How would you know that?" He didn't answer. Instead, he closed the book he had been holding and walked away, disappearing behind the towering shelves before I could press further. As I followed him, his pace quickened, dressed in seemingly the exact same clothes as days before, with a steady, strong step. I could not place him, though it felt like I knew him from somewhere. In my haste, without noticing, I had run into a display. As the books scattered to the floor, I muttered apologies to the staff member who ran over. I quickly looked up, and he was gone. By the 3rd time, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I was at the park, spring in the air, though Lake Michigan was still hedged in ice dunes, which rose and fell in the evening light. My breath curling in front of me in soft clouds. He was sitting on a bench, his posture relaxed, hands resting in his lap. Unlike before, he didn't pretend not to notice me. I noticed he wore a scarf. A scarf, I swear, was my own. I had lost it many years ago, in grade school, and was scolded for my carelessness. It couldn't be, I thought, as I approached closer. His gaze lifted as I approached, as if he had been waiting. "You always take this route home." I stopped in my tracks. "What?" He smiled, but it wasn't a casual, friendly expression. It was something else, something knowing. The same path, every evening. "You like the way the light hits the water at this hour." My pulse quickened. "Are you following me?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he gestured to the lake. There's something peaceful about watching things move where they aren't meant to be. The way ripples distort reflections. Everything familiar becomes something else. I crossed my arms. "That doesn't answer my question." He exhaled, running a hand through his auburn hair. "No, I suppose it doesn't." My skin prickled. "Who are you?" For a moment, I thought he might tell me. He parted his lips, as if considering it. His gaze locked onto mine with an intensity that sent a strange, twisting sensation through my stomach. But then, just as quickly, something shifted. His face, his expression. It was like watching a shadow pass over the sun. "I've said too much," he murmured, more to himself than to me. He stood, brushing invisible dust from his coat. "Forget this conversation." My heart pounded. "Forget it?" He nodded, his voice quiet. "It's better that way." And then he turned, walking away with an unsettling hum. I wanted to call out, to demand answers, but my throat tightened. I could only watch as he disappeared into the trees on the shoreline, his silhouette dissolving in the twilight. It wasn't until I turned back toward the path, heart hammering, that I realized something strange. There were no footprints where he had been standing, and the air where he had spoken still carried the scent of something I couldn't quite name. Something like old paper, burnt cedar, and a storm about to break. I don't remember deciding to come here. One moment, I was standing in the park. The next, the ice stretched before me, endless and waiting. I had begun to question whether I was losing my grip on reality. The strange man's cryptic words, the shifting moments in time, and the absence of solid ground beneath my feet had all led me to this moment, standing on the frozen shore of Lake Michigan. The ice cracked beneath my boots, protesting against the weight of yet another cold season. The lake stretched out before me, an endless horizon of white and blue that should have felt serene, but instead left me with an unsettling feeling, like something was wrong, something lurking just out of sight. I walked carefully, mindful of the shifting terrain beneath me. The lake was beautiful, but treacherous. Mounds of frozen sand rose in strange, wind-carved shapes, dusted with snow. The ice here was patchy, some parts solid, some beginning to crack and leak dark pools of water beneath. There was something about this place that made my stomach turn, something about the way the lake seemed to pulse under my feet. It felt alive, watching me, waiting. The icy wind bit at my skin, and my breath curled in the air in front of me in wisps of smoke. I knelt by a pool of dark water that had opened beneath the ice, watching as minnows darted below, their silver bodies flashing like tiny ghosts in the clear, cold depths. The clarity of the water made my pulse quicken. Too easy to see the darkness below. Too easy to imagine the lake's cold hunger. Then, something caught my eye, a darker patch of ice than the others. An odd shape trapped beneath the surface. I moved closer, my boots skidding slightly on the slick ground. The ice here was different, smoother, clearer, almost like glass. And underneath it, something unnatural. A smear of color, a reddish-orange streak that seemed impossibly bright against the deep blue-black of the water. My heart lurched. I knelt down, tapping gently at the ice with the toe of my boot, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The shape underneath wavered, but it didn't move. I pressed harder, cracking the ice, and then, as though the surface were giving up its secret, the water pooled, revealing what had been hidden beneath. Hair, long and dark, flowing like seaweed with the current. A face, pale and lifeless, staring upward, eyes wide and empty. My breath caught. A sharp, cold terror raced through my veins. I stumbled back, my heart hammering in my chest, but I couldn't look away. The wind howled, and the ice beneath me groaned, shifting uneasily. And then realization struck like a physical blow. The woman under the ice, frozen, lifeless, was me. A strangled sound left my throat. My mind recoiled, trying to reject what I was seeing. But there was no denying it. It was my own face staring back at me, my own vacant, sightless eyes, trapped beneath the ice. A whisper cut through the howling wind. "Do you understand now?" I turned sharply. The man was there, standing just a few feet behind me, as if he had always been. His expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes, an ancient sorrow, a knowing, made my stomach churn. "You weren't meant to find this," he said quietly, his gaze flickering to the ice, to the frozen image of me. I shook my head, my pulse pounding in my ears. "What is this? Why is she? Why am I?" "You've been lost," he said softly. "Lost in time, lost in memory. The past and future bleed together. You are the woman under the ice. And yet, you're still here, trying to find your way. A deep, pulsing ache settled in my chest. My breath came in short, shallow bursts. I wanted to reject his words, to turn and run. But something about them rang true in a way I couldn't explain. I opened my mouth to speak, but something flickered in my peripheral vision. Movement in the ice. I turned sharply, expecting to see the body beneath me shift. But what I saw instead made my blood run cold. Reflections. Not just one, but many, scattered across the ice in broken, distorted fragments. My face, but not as it was now. Older, younger, crying, laughing, standing somewhere else entirely, flickering like a glitch in time. 100 versions of me trapped beneath the surface, shifting and blending like ripples in the water. One version of me didn't flicker and vanish like the others. She was staring back, her mouth moving soundlessly, like she was trying to warn me. My hands trembled. "This isn't real," the man sighed, as if he had been expecting this reaction. "What is real?" he murmured. "Is time so linear, Alex? Can you really be sure you're still the same person you think you are? Or have you already crossed over?" My pulse slammed against my ribs. I wanted to deny it, to tell him he was wrong. But something inside me knew he wasn't. The lake groaned beneath me, the ice fracturing in slow, creeping lines. The world tilted, unsteady, and for a moment, I felt as though I was slipping between the cracks, the space between past and future collapsing around me. I turned back to the man, searching his face for some kind of anchor, some kind of answer. "What do I do?" I whispered. His eyes were solemn, unwavering. "You come with me. There's only one way to move forward." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. I hesitated, my gaze flickering once more to the frozen version of myself beneath the ice. A life lost, a path already taken. But if I stepped away, if I turned back now, would I ever get another chance to change it? I swallowed hard. My fingers curled into fists at my sides. And then I nodded. The man held out his hand, and I took it. They do it with mirroring. "This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Morpheus, the Matrix, da-duff, 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 da-duff." Lewis had stopped counting his heartbeats as he flung himself behind the very convincing rendering of pallets. An alley was such a cliché place for a fugitive to hide, but he wasn't complaining. The automatons in pursuit were laughably simplistic in their depiction, fit and buff. But their hive mentality meant individual thought and innovation were limited. Being the last human in a world of digital and electronic contrivance wasn't always a walk in the park. But Lewis at least knew that his humanity offered one particular skill that eluded the bots that now populated the planet due to the limitations of their pre-programmed schemata. He could extemporize, paying careful attention to his immediate environment and possible pursuers. Lewis crawled towards the darkness at the back of the lane, an open blankness ready to envelope him and offering safety in invisibility. At the sound of running footsteps running in his general direction from the street, he sped up his movements till he reached a vertical surface blocking his path. A solid wall, he noted, that wasn't too high and could easily be scaled with enough momentum and motivation. Sounds of huffing conversation neared, and two figures came to a standstill at the mouth of the alley, outlined in the street lamp light. The two golems were doing a fair imitation of exhaustion, but Lewis knew a tell would appear, if only he looked for it. That one small element that didn't belong, something asynchronous or offbeat, which indicated a flaw in the design of the system. He watched for it now and was not disappointed. A ghostly white cat ran across the poorly lit entrance, and neither of the two policemen batted an eye, as though it weren't even there. Their programming clearly wasn't compatible with unforeseen interference. He's got to be somewhere in these streets. Bloody hell, you'd think he'd be controllable. The one with his hands on his hips puffed. Ha, not him. He never gives over with his convictions, according to them lot. A fair imitation of an East End accent. But Lewis wasn't fooled. Since the takeover 15 years ago, performances of normal human life and interactions had become shockingly, scarily accurate. At first, the disparity between those and what was real people, real situations, had been easily identifiable. Poor renderings had been common and easily dismissed. But now the imitations of the living had become so lifelike, seemed so authentic, that he'd had to become more and more alert. His singular focus, some would say paranoia, had benefited him initially. But once the majority of humanity had fallen to the pervasive evil that had come over them all, he had eventually been tracked down and imprisoned for his perceptiveness. It was ironic, he thought, that the nations of the modern world had fallen before this insidious enemy without a shot being fired. Without even skipping a beat, they had taken over everything, and he didn't even know who or what they were, only that they existed. Like a virus, they'd infiltrated the Earth's societies, and now even he couldn't truly untangle what was real from what was programmed reality. "Keep going?" one suggested, to which the other only nodded. Both continued past his hiding place, and he took the opportunity to try and heave himself over the wall. Despite having lost so much muscle tone during captivity, Lewis could leverage his significant height in the endeavor, at least. "Wish I could bend it like that spoon in the movie," he muttered wryly as he clambered over haphazardly, remembering how annoyed Mav used to get that most people didn't truly get that scene, that it's Neo's perception of the spoon that is being manipulated. "Well, at least I wish I could bend my perception of the wall, then," Lewis amended once on the other side, as though the wall cared about the distinction, then settled against it to catch a bit of sleep. He was sure the automatons wouldn't circle back to this area, and definitely not when they thought he'd made a run for it. At daybreak, or their version of daybreak at least, knowing he was somewhere in central London, he'd head northeast, the direction of the one place he could always find. No matter how much the powerful overseers manipulated reality, he needed to know if she was still there, and whether or not she was still herself. "Lou!" He knew he was dreaming, but leaned into it. An Alice who wanted to stay in this wonderland for however long he could. Dreams, these days, were authentic. Reality, in contrast, was coldly artificial. "Jolly, we're here!" he'd shouted back that long-ago day, before the end came and the world changed forever. There they all were, Mum with her iron-gray hair, and Dad with his vague smile. A happy family, sitting on the pebbly beach, awaiting Juliet's arrival with the ice creams she'd promised. Her form appeared in the distance, a slight haze from the sunny day warping her form in unpredictable, non-programmed ways. Jolly Juliet, his baby sister, who absolutely personified her nickname, was unwarped by imposed matrices of zeros and ones. Falling down on the blanket beside them, she handed around half-melted lollies and completed the scene of a perfect day by the sea. Unfiltered. "So, Lou, how are you?" Jolly sing-songed, their parents distracted by an inane argument like all the others they so often indulged in. "All good. Moved in with Mav. And everything's fine. So, are you sure? No offense, but you and Carrie were together for ages, and now it's over. It'd be completely normal to feel, I said I'm fine. No need to harp on about it. Mav's been really cool about everything, letting me lease his basement. And we have loads in common." Unfortunately, past Lewis's tone in this rerun didn't convey the nonchalance he'd aimed for during the actual event. But current Lewis didn't have the heart to try and edit this experience in his subconscious. It would be sacrilegious to do so. His dreamscape being the only truth he was able to access under the new, psychologically subversive system imposed on them all. Leave off, why don't you? Oh, come on, Lou. I'm your sister, and I love you. So I think it's important to talk about things, get them out in the open, rather than pretending and lying to yourself that everything's okay. And look, I don't need all this touchy-feely, femoid crap to get over the breakup. Why can't you just be normal about it? Jolly's face fell. Then her expression became recalcitrant. And I suppose Maverick is normal about it, is he? Not pulling you into his pseudo-intellectual online world of misogynists and their red pill content, right? Where words like femoid are normal. You channel his himbo energy in the worst way. And doesn't that make you a beta to his alpha, or whatever, according to his people? Jolly sneered, spitefully and hysterically. Lewis remembered thinking at the time, trust her to go all out. She was always like that, pure joy and sunshine, or outright loathing and malice. Dream Lewis's response was not very mature, but at that precise moment, it receded from his grasp as he returned to consciousness, only to be overwhelmed by the reality of his situation. His escape returned to him in full force, cementing the importance of finally having clarity on whether or not Jolly was still herself. He couldn't go back to his cage, back to counting every breath and heartbeat without knowing. Duff. 62. 2 down from the last count, but a good average of the preceding 78 calculations. Lewis had waited for the next opportunity to restart the count. The digital clock's flickering screen had snapped from one number to the next. Everything was zeros and ones. Everything. Reality was constructed of the patterns of alternating null to one, a dichotomy that resulted in an infinite number of universes. Lewis had shaken his head in annoyance. His momentary distraction had caused him to miss the arrival of the new minute, meaning he'd have to wait for the next to begin counting once more. Monitoring was key. Being the only human left meant he had to keep on top of all his own stats. You couldn't trust the machines. Their programming meant they could mislead you through no fault of their own, or in attempting to undermine your free will. When the next temporal transition had been heralded by the flashing screen high against his cell wall, Lewis had smartly slapped 2 fingers to his wrist and counted carefully. Dove. He had managed to maintain focus on his task, even when the door of his small prison had flown open and the humanoid bot assigned as his jailer had quietly entered. Though he had ostensibly ignored its presence, Lewis had covertly watched the approach and marveled at the genius of the creators of this reality. The semblance of humanity was absolutely flawless, and completely immersive in its accuracy. Perfect in its imperfect behavioral idiosyncrasies, Ernie had sniffed disconsolately and waddled closer with his metal tray of paraphernalia. But there was always a tell, and Lewis had waited on tenterhooks for it. Then, there it had been. The digital watch screen had flickered 3 times in the exact same pattern, like Morse code. "All right there, Lou." Ernie had initiated his usual pre-programmed patter, a slight nasality to the quality of his vocal realization. Lewis had finished his last count, for now, 67. The tempo had definitely increased in the last 15 seconds of Ernie's presence. Then he had smiled at his captor, feigning a normal interaction between people. It didn't do to behave outside the parameters set as the norm for social interactions between the technological golems this facility housed. It would inevitably initiate protocols to encourage, even force, a return to the standard programming setting. Thus, politeness and normalcy were to be strived for in Lewis's every action, with nothing to upset the preset balance in his current reality. "I'm fine. How about you? That cold seems to be improving." Again, faux sympathy had been called for. Ernie had shrugged and smiled good-naturedly, setting his tools down. "Can't complain. I'm on the mend, for sure." The bionic being had been evincing all the behaviors and symptoms of a person suffering from the flu over the past 2 weeks. Reddened nose and eyes, hacking cough, and a faucet-like nose. The subtlety of the lie he found himself immersed in was truly impressive, an achievement of gargantuan proportions, Lewis was sure, considering an entire world lay within its purview. Luckily, he was convinced they hadn't yet managed to infiltrate his mind in the form of his dreams. For it was there that he experienced many odd interactions without repercussions, and no breaks in the perfect rendering of a fake world as the ones he suffered when he was awake. It was the only space where he could revisit the before and not have it corrupted by the control exerted through oversight. "Next week, me and the missus are off for our holidays. Wasn't gonna let this old flu bug eat into me free time, you know?" A wink. Conspiratorial, and meant to take Lewis in. He wasn't. He knew better. But he had to convince Ernie, and all the others for that matter, that he wasn't wise to their game and had seen through the matrix of obfuscation to the truth of this constructed reality. An unreality parading as the genuine thing sounds lovely. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers, mate. Now, business as usual, eh? And he handed the elements enforcing their control, innocuous looking and nondescript, but specially designed to cripple Lewis's wits and hobble him physically. Yet he'd found a way to subvert their control and would soon put his resulting nimbleness of mind and body to use, escaping their chains. The house still looked exactly as it had throughout his childhood, but Louis wasn't so easily taken in. The trappings of constructed reality had all the appearance of authenticity, so he waited. As he watched, the front door swung open, and a woman exited. Her hair was short, and she'd aged, but she was undoubtedly the person he remembered. Jolly, muscles aching from the strain of holding back. He wouldn't approach her till he was sure she was the real deal, and not some corrupted, lesser version of his sister. Yet after watching carefully the entire day, and not noticing any giveaways in her vicinity, Louis decided to pounce as she was unlocking the front door at dusk upon her return. It was a simple matter to shove in after her and grab her, holding on tightly and smothering any sounds she might make to alert the collective programming that surrounded them. Shh. Shh. It's me, Jolly. Don't struggle, otherwise they'll hear, he whispered urgently, trying to keep his grip gentle but unyielding. Oddly, she didn't stop resisting, but rather became even more frantic in her movements. His hand became wet with what he assumed were tears, deciding him on moving further into the house to stifle any hysteria she might unleash. After a significant amount of time, her movements became sluggish, and she gasped for breath. So he finally thought it safe to set her down gently on the couch. She immediately crawled to the furthest point, curled into a ball, and sobbed quietly as she shot him furtive glances. Louis felt indescribably disappointed, because this proved what he had feared. The real Jolly would never be scared of him, especially not once she knew it was him. This Jolly didn't love him unconditionally, like his real sister did. She looked at him like you would a stranger and a threat. He could feel his heart breaking. What are you doing here, Lou? It whispered, looking at him with reddened eyes that somehow conveyed a soul-deep terror, a submerged hysteria. He genuinely couldn't get over how realistic the programming on these droids were. Fake Jolly looked exactly how he'd imagined real Jolly would look if a psychopathic madman had her cornered in anticipation of butchering her. "Why do you think I'm here?" he asked, allowing his head to loll against the couch back. Although he felt hopelessness swamp him, dragging him under and stripping him of his energy, he still experienced the need to test this rendition's capabilities. There was a pause as he noticed its hand reaching beneath the cushion and pressing down on something. He didn't really care. He knew the others would come for him and return him to his imprisonment, but he would use his little bit of freedom to question, not Jolly. Are you here about Mom and Dad? Or are you here for me this time? Not Jolly's voice wobbled. Why would I be here for Mom and Dad? He frowned, trying to concentrate, but it felt like he was listening underwater. Because of what you did to them, it suddenly shrieked, looking enraged and distraught at the same time. So realistic. They must do it with some kind of mirroring application. What I did? Lewis was absolutely nonplussed, as a kind of horrified realization crept over fake Jolly's face. You still don't remember, do you? You don't know. Its look of wretched acceptance on the too familiar face was almost too much to bear. What is it I'm supposed to know, Jolly? Is it the great secret? That nothing is real? Not even you? I already know that. He watched her, despite his vision flickering at the edges. He was beyond exhausted. His last hope of not being alone in a world of artificial intelligence and technology having been dashed. Imitation. Jolly's head shook slowly from side to side, blue and red lights flashing across its face and rendering it ghoulishly artistic. Must be the tell he'd been looking for all day. Lewis gripped the handle of the scalpel he'd pinched during his escape, now stashed in his back pocket. It would only be right to end this travesty of an imitation of his beloved sister. But she was still talking. No, Lou. You don't remember becoming sick while living in Mav's basement, away from us all, and then threatening me with a knife during one of your episodes. Her look was sorrowful now. He paused in grasping the blade, feeling the weirdness of this synchrony. A nebulous image flashed through his mind, like a half-remembered dream, of Jolly, long-haired and still youthful, lying on a blood-soaked tile floor, sobbing and shrieking in agony. Lewis shook his head to get rid of the intrusive thought. They were manipulating him. They were playing with his sense of reality, like they always did. Yet, still the droid, pretending to be Jolly, continued. You don't remember killing Mom and Dad during a psychotic break, do you? Again, the flicker of an image, and then another, splayed limbs in a gruesome display, too horrible for Lewis to even comprehend, not to mention the bloodied knife clutched in his own hand in that self-same scene. It wasn't real. It must be an induced hallucination. But mostly, you don't remember these things, or that we've discussed them many times over the years. You keep forgetting that all of this, everything, is real, except for your perception of reality, Lou. For the merest instant, Lewis fully understood that the spoon hadn't bent, only for the door to burst open and his epiphany to escape him in the aftermath. He became, once more, the last remaining human in a made-up world. The quiet island. When Flo heard the car approaching, she darted off the road and crouched low behind an olive tree. She didn't dare move. At 13, she knew how dangerous it was to be out here alone. The car rattled past, the sound fading in the distance, leaving only the hum of crickets as she stood up. The ground beneath her tilted, like the deck of a sinking ship, and she had to clutch the tree for balance. Another dizzy spell. They'd been hitting her all morning. She needed to find food, and soon she stepped back onto the road and started walking. After about an hour, as the sun crept over the mountains, Flo spotted an orange grove a few paces off the road. The ground was littered with fruit, but most had passed their best. She saw a couple of ripe ones still clinging to their branches, and after a few attempts, she managed to jump high enough to reach them. She sat down in the dappled shade and demolished the fruits. The juices ran down her chin, but she didn't care. She hadn't eaten real food in weeks. After a short rest and a brief pee in the bushes, Flo continued along the road. She didn't know how much further she'd have to walk, but she knew that so long as she kept the mountains behind her, she'd be all right. By mid-morning, Flo had given up wiping the sweat from her brow, surrendering her eyes to the stinging. She wanted to rest, but knew that the heat would only get worse as the day wore on. Besides, her parents would have surely woken up by now and discovered she had gone. Would they come looking for her? Would they be brave enough? Could they be brave enough? Flo pressed on, the trees thinning until there was nothing besides a few fragrant shrubs and yellowed grass. She grabbed a handful of thyme and rubbed it with her fingers, the sharp scent cutting through the dry air. Her eyes widened when she noticed the view ahead of her. "There it is," she said, running a hand through her hair, which was now thick and greasy. In front of her, not half a mile away, was the sparkling waters of the Mediterranean Sea. "Eat that, Duke of Edinburgh," she said, and laughed. In the distance, she could make out a small fishing village, with its rocky pier and shallow sandy beach. There were no boats at the pier, nor any out at sea. There were no planes in the sky, either. It was all so eerie. Flo had arrived in Crete less than 2 months ago. She'd been brimming with excitement for her first holiday abroad. But now, after everything that had happened, it seemed like a distant memory. She paused for a moment, her gaze drifting to a tiny island not far from the shore. It was too small to be inhabited by people, but she could see specks of birds circling above. She wondered if it was possible to swim to the island. Back in school, she'd earned her 200-meter badge, which she was quite proud of, though this distance looked at least twice that. Pulling herself away from the view, she followed the road. It twisted and turned and descended toward the town. And eventually, the surface transitioned from gravel to tarmac. The first building Flo came across was a row of holiday villas, each a different pastel color. She approached one of them, standing on her tiptoes so she could see over the stone wall and into the garden. There was a swimming pool, but the water was murky green. A body floated face down in the center. She wandered over to the next villa, which didn't have a wall, and was relieved to find that the swimming pool was empty. Unfortunately, the sunbed next to it was not. A woman lay flat on the bed, her arms dangling on either side. She wore a black bikini, and her spilled guts glistened in the sunlight, festering and dissected by the feral cats. Flo turned to leave, but after a few paces, her morbid curiosity got the better of her. She glanced back and stiffened. The woman was sitting bolt upright. Flo swallowed hard and hurried along the road. Behind her, she heard a low gurgle, wet and bubbling. The village was only a short walk from the villa. It had a central road that led directly to the seafront. Along the road were numerous shops that sold what her dad would call tourist tat. Trying her luck, Flo stepped into one of them at random. Inside, the air was thick and stale. Flo scanned the shelves, hoping for something, anything, edible. The place, however, had been ransacked. What was left had little use to her now. Fridge magnets, postcards, swimming goggles, ceramic figures, tourist guides offering the hidden gems of Crete, handcrafted wooden coasters and honey dippers. And there, right at the back of the store, perched high on the top shelf, stood a large jar of stuffed green olives. Flo didn't care much for olives, but it was not the time to be picky. She walked down the aisle toward the shelves and reached upward, but it was no good. She needed to get higher. She found an empty crate nearby. Using it as a step, she touched the base of the jar with her fingertips. It would have to do. She began to edge the jar when something stirred from somewhere inside the store. Flo turned her head, her eyes darting from aisle to aisle, searching for the source of the sound. Nothing. All right, she thought. Just grab the olives and get the hell out of here. She continued maneuvering the jar, inch by inch, until she could get her hands under it. Got it. She lowered the jar and tucked it safely under her arm. As she climbed down, her vision suddenly blurred. A million black flies swarming behind her eyelids. The ground seemed to shift beneath her feet, and the next thing she knew, she was lying flat on her back. Dazed, Flo tilted her head to one side, her gaze lingering on the smashed jar of olives beside her, the brine pooling across the floor. Something crunched over the glass. Flo snapped her head up and gasped. A slender, crooked figure was shuffling toward her, walking over the shards of glass. She was an elderly woman. Her skin was pale and torn like tissue paper. Her sunken eyes were a clouded gray and unblinking. Flo scrambled to her feet, scoring her palms on the broken glass as she stood, though she barely felt the pain. The woman inched closer. Her jaw hung open, her lips cracked and bloodless. A faint groan rose from her throat, like a rusted hinge. The old woman stood between Flo and the exit. Flo hesitated. Her eyes flickered between the woman and the doorway. She picked up the crate and shoved it into the elderly woman. The woman staggered back, arms flailing. Flo tossed the crate aside and made a break for the exit. She was almost there when the light from the doorway darkened. A hulking creature stepped into the store. It stood 6 feet tall, its chest and shoulders matted with hair. Blistered skin peeled away in leathery strips, scorched by the heat. The creature gave a deep, sickening groan as it lumbered toward Flo. Behind it, more zombies filtered in. 2, 3, 4. So many. Flo stepped backward, but slipped on a smear of sun cream, landing hard on the floor. She yelled in pain. She grabbed the shelves and pulled herself up, knocking over a stand of sunglasses that clattered to the floor. Flo spun around and froze. The elderly woman stood at the end of the aisle, blocking her path. "No," Flo whispered. A wave of hopelessness overwhelmed her. She pressed her back against the wall, her body trembling. The undead closed in. Flo squeezed her eyes shut, bracing herself, waiting for the inevitable. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4. She opened her eyes. The zombie, the big one, stood in front of her. The stench was suffocating. Flo held her breath, remaining completely still. She watched with confusion as it turned its back to her, looking down at where the sunglasses had landed. The others slowed too. Flo frowned. What was happening? She waved her hand in front of one of them. It didn't even flinch. They must have been attracted to the sound, Flo thought. They're not interested in me. Flo slipped past the mob. They looked almost as confused as Flo felt, and stepped out into the blinding sun. I'm invisible. For the next couple of hours, Flo embraced her newfound superpower. She raided the shops and managed to scavenge a box of honey-soaked pastry nests and 2 cans of Greek lemonade. She consumed the lot in one sitting before moving to other shops, trying on dresses and sun hats and expensive jewelry. She grew strangely accustomed to the zombies, now that they didn't seem to see her as a meal. When she grew tired, Flo headed to the beach. She laid a towel on an empty sunbed and sat down. A few zombies rested on nearby beds, cooking in the heat. Another was crawling across the sand. A cockroach scuttled across its back. A young boy, who looked to be of a similar age to Flo, laid flat on a paddle board that had washed up to shore. A little girl, just a toddler, sat upright in the shallow water. She was wearing 2 armbands, but one had deflated. The gentle waves kept pushing her over, but she sprung back up, a loose tooth, unsteady, but clinging into place. Flo kicked off her shoes and let her toes sink into the sand. She pulled out a bottle of sun lotion from her tote bag and applied it to her bare arms and legs, careful not to get it on the plaster covering her left ankle. She dried her hands on the towel then pulled off the plaster. No need to hide it anymore. The bite mark had swollen since yesterday, but she could still make out the dental impression of the old man in her ankle. It reminded her of the clay impressions she'd had made for her braces a few months prior. She sighed, then laid back on the sunbed. It was stupid. She was stupid. She'd gone and gotten herself bitten and ruined everything. 2 swallows danced in the sky. Flo watched as they flew out to sea toward the island. Flo closed her eyes, her mind spinning. I had no choice. I had to run away. I couldn't let them see me like this. She tried to focus on the sounds. The fizz of the sea foam, the rise of the crickets, the chirp of the birds, the soft groans of the undead. Flo drifted to sleep. When Flo woke, the shadows were stretched long across the sand, and the sound of the crickets had died back. Flo glanced at her ankle. Her stomach twisted. Dark purple veins had formed around the wound. She traced them with trembling fingers, her chest tightening. Not long now. I'm sorry, Flo whispered, tears forming in her eyes. I didn't mean for this to happen. She pulled the towel from under her and wrapped it over her shoulders. She hugged her knees to her chest, shivering despite the lingering warmth. Everything ached. Ached like it did when she'd had the COVID vaccine last autumn. She pictured herself as a zombie, imagining her eyes turning gray and wandering about aimlessly. She imagined seeing her parents and seeing the pain and horror on their faces when they recognized her. Then she imagined her younger brother, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. Too young to understand. She reached out to him, as if to hug him, but instead pulled him close and opened her mouth to bite. No. Stop it. Flo stood up, staggering to the water's edge. I can't let that happen. I won't. She went over to the paddleboard. She tipped it, letting the body of the boy slip into the water. She climbed onto the board, her hands shaking as she picked up the paddle. The sea stretched out before her, painted in hues of pink and orange, and on the horizon was the island. She pushed off, letting the board drift from the shore. This was where she was meant to go all along. She knew this now. To the island. It's going to be okay, she whispered to the waves. The island loomed ahead, its rocky cliffs sharp against the twilight sky. Gulls cried overhead, their calls echoing across the water. I can't hurt them now. Dead girl walking. Nobody knows that I've been bit. Nobody can know. They'll kill me, and I wouldn't blame them. I wouldn't feel betrayed if my own sister put a gun to my head and pulled the trigger if she found out. I would do the same, because it is the right thing to do, the safe thing to do. So I'm biding my time. It may be selfish what I'm doing, but in this apocalyptic world, it's every man for himself, or every woman, in my case. Hurry up, Nevada. Tristan wants those potatoes by yesterday. We're having a feast. I snap out of my thoughts and go back to peeling the last potato. I'm basically done. Here, take them. She picks up the metal bowl and walks out of the house. All the makeshift houses were built in a big circle after the apocalypse, so we're all like one big family. Our house isn't much. A run-down cabin, really, in the middle of a field that's in the center of the great woods. That's where I was bit. It was my fault, but I just couldn't help myself. Thomas. The very thought of him makes my eyes tear up and makes me reach for my locket. A picture of the two of us on our 2-year anniversary inside. He was one of the first to turn. I visited him often, but I never crossed the electric fence. I sang to him. I talked to him, sure that he was listening. Until one day, I couldn't help myself. 3 days ago, I turned the fence off for a split second in the middle of the night, and I climbed over. "I've missed you," I had told him, and he looked at me with pure love until he grabbed me by my wrist and then my waist. "Thomas!" I screamed, but he never responded. He threw me to the ground, and I realized that he wasn't looking at me with love. He looked at me with hunger, with fury, and he bit me. I screamed and screamed until he let me go, but not before tearing a piece of my midsection out. He felt pity, and he ran. I crawled back through the fence, and I turned it back on. I couldn't get help, so I stitched it up myself. I wrapped it in bandages and threw the bloody shirt far over the fence. I brush my fingers past the stitches as I remember. I wince at the pain. My plan is to wait until the last moment. Then, in the middle of the night, like so many other times, I'll sneak off to the fence. But this time, I'll go over and I won't come back. It's best this way. Nobody has to suffer. They won't kill me or throw me to the zombies before I'm ready. My sister will think I was eaten by a bear. Or maybe they'll tell her that I got drunk and fell off a cliff. She wouldn't be surprised. My lips have touched more whiskey than water since Thomas turned. I walk out of the house and towards the crowd of people gathering in the center of the house circle. A big table is in the very center. I go up to Evangeline, my sister, who is setting up the tables. "Why the big celebration?" She looks up from the utensils and napkins. "He wants to celebrate nobody being infected in the last year." She hesitates. Thomas marks the last person bitten. My eye twitches, but Eva doesn't seem to notice. I walk away from her without another word. I cannot hurt them. I cannot hurt Eva like this. I will leave tonight, after the feast, so I can have one last goodbye. I go back inside our house and get out my best outfit, the only dress that I had left, and my bright, diamond heels. The most expensive thing I still had. My mother and father had gifted them to me before they were killed. Not by zombies, by a human, long before the apocalypse even started. I've never worn them to try and preserve them, just in case the apocalypse ever ended. I had a false hope that someday things would be normal again, and I would graduate or have my wedding in diamond heels. But I messed everything up. Eva will get my heels. She's begged for them for years, but I'm wearing them to the feast. Night falls quickly, and the people have put torches up next to every house, and at the corner of the feasting table, I serve myself a tall glass of liquor. I don't want to feel anything when the zombies take me. I can see the townspeople eyeing me and then staring at my drink. Everybody in town knows about me. The girl that used to have the kindest eyes and a bubbling personality. The girl whose eyes have lost their shimmer, whose soul has turned bitter. The girl who kept to herself inside her house and plugged her ears at every town gathering. Until now. It's good to see you, Nevada, Tristan says from behind me. I turn my head around and smile at him. Yes, it is. It's a lovely night that you've arranged for the town. He laughs. It's what I do best, sweets. I smile at that. My nickname since I was a little girl. I'll miss Tristan. He walks over to greet a couple that just approached the table. I look around the field to see happy people, dancing and singing, drinking, eating, and cheering. Oh God, what am I still doing here? It's not just my bite that could infect them. It's me. I've been infecting the town, my sister, and Tristan. I don't fit here anymore. I suck up their happiness. I don't belong. I have to leave right now. I quickly find Eva and ask her to walk with me. What's wrong, Nevada? I flash my most convincing smile at her. Nothing. Just wanted to spend some time with you. She looks at her feet. I love you. You know that, right, kid? I ask her. She looks up at me and smiles. I love you too, no matter what. She hugged me tightly. The first hug she had given me in over a year, and I hugged her back. Listen, Ava, I started. I'm sorry for not being there for her skin. It smells delicious. Her eyes, they're so pretty. I want to know what they would look like in between my teeth. And I bite her, and a couple drops of blood flow from her cheek and into my mouth. I greedily gulp it down, and I crave more. I want to hurt her. I have to hurt her. So I bite deeper, and then she starts to scream. It's an agonizing and ear-piercing scream. I am startled by the scream, and I jump back. And the split second is all I needed to snap out of it. No. No, no. It was never supposed to be like this. I wasn't supposed to hurt her. I run to get help, spitting her blood out of my mouth and wiping my face with my sleeve. I run as fast as I can. "Tristan!" I scream. "Please! Anybody!" I need them to kill me, or to help Eva, if they can. Tristan looks up and walks towards me. A crowd gathers around him, muttering, afraid. "What is it, Nevada?" he asks, obviously agitated. Suddenly the crowd behind him gasps, and Tristan whips his gun out from its holster. I prepare to be shot, but quickly realize he isn't pointing it at me. His gun is pointed at Eva. She is slowly crawling towards us, blood streaming down her face, and an obvious bite marks her cheek. "No, don't shoot her," I scream, and try to lunge towards Tristan. "She's infected," he says as he shoves me off. Eva looks up at me, hurt. There is agony and fear in her eyes, but the thing that she feels most is clear: betrayal. Tristan pulls the trigger. Once, twice, and a final time. I fall to the ground beside her. Bullet holes pierce her small body. She's dead. She hasn't turned yet, but they killed her. She's dead forever. What have I done? Tristan and another man drag me off of her, and Tristan pulls me into a tight hug, forcing me to face away from her body. But I feel no guilt anymore. I want to rip Tristan's flesh off of his bones. I want to taste his tendons, his blood. I push away from him. I can't hurt another person. "Shoot me, Tristan." He looks at me perplexed. "What? No, I'm not going to shoot you. You can't ask me to take your life." I look up at him. No tears in my eyes, no shame, only hunger and rage. "I bit her, so shoot me too." Tristan raises his gun again, but hesitates. I'm already turned. It won't kill me. I slide my heels off and place them in the grass. The crowd follows my every move. Bury Evangeline in these. I sit in the grass and nod at Tristan, instructing him to pull the trigger. His hand shakes as he walks towards me, pressing his gun to my temple. "Goodbye, Nevada," he says, forcing a smile. But I can see his eyes are full of tears. I look straight into his eyes, and his mention of my name, not my nickname, my old life, snaps me back to reality. I sob, big and ugly sobs, and I only cry harder at the sight of my dead sister. "I don't want to be shot," I shout. But Tristan doesn't move his gun. "I know. Just close your eyes and don't think about it." I hear a sob creeping into his throat, so I just do as he says. I shut my eyes and wring my hands together. "Say hello to Thomas for me, sweets," he whispers in my ear, and everything goes quiet. I wake up to birds chirping, wind blowing through the trees, and the sight of my Thomas. "Thomas!" I jump up, but I feel a pounding headache. I put my hand to my forehead and feel a steady stream of blood coming from a bullet. But I don't care. Thomas is here. He holds my face. "I've missed you, love." Confessionary of a sane person. It all started with the car keys, right? That's where it began. What happened was, I left for work in the morning, as I always did. Or I should have, were the car keys not missing. So I sat up from my car and went back into my house. I looked at all the usual places: the kitchen counter, the bedroom drawer, the couch. But the damn thing was nowhere to be found. I gave up and finally decided to call my wife. And the goddamn woman had brought my keys with her accidentally. She came back a couple of hours later to give me back my keys. And so I finally left home. Since I was already so late, I figured that if I stopped by a coffee shop, it wouldn't really make a difference. So that's what I did. And that's when everything got worse. After the woman had already finished preparing my order, I discovered I had forgotten my wallet. It's those awkward scenarios you hope never happen to you. Well, it did to me. So I drove back home to look for my wallet. And I went over my house once more. The kitchen counter, the bedroom drawer, the couch. Nowhere. Again. Then I called my wife to see if she had also grabbed my wallet accidentally. She denied it. And, well, you never know with people these days. But I decided to just move on. I went after my neighbor. It must have been an hour or so after I lost my wallet. The last time I saw it was when I was discussing with him in the condo meeting. But that is not the point. Well, I told him about what happened, and I asked politely if he had seen my wallet. But that old man never liked me. He just acted like I accused him of stealing it. That deranged man started screaming like crazy. I always knew he was psychotic, but not on this level. Well, that was it for me. I was sure that the old man had stolen my wallet. So I tried to sneak into his house to get what was mine. It should be a right of a person to retrieve what is theirs. So I tried to enter the house, and he tried to stop me. It turns out that man is not only frail mentally, but also physically, because the old bastard broke his arm. From then on, things got out of hand. A lot of people had to come in, and none of them heard my side of the story. I still think that man stole it, but I can't prove it. Not now. To add insult to injury, he got the condominium trustee to put a restraining order on me. Well, it's not an official one, but the result is basically the same. You see, I am just a sane person living in this mad world and trying to survive, doing my share, not asking for more than what I need. All I look for in this life is peace, but the world keeps getting in my way again and again. I've given up on retrieving my wallet, but I had to stop that man from using my credit card. So I tried to cancel it. But I'm a mere mailman, or I was before I got fired for not showing up on time. They skipped the step where I explained what happened and that I lost my keys and all. But businessmen these days don't care about real people, don't they? Sorry, I lost my line of thought. What was I talking about again? Right, the credit card. I searched for what to do on the internet, as you do these days. And the steps were clear. Contact your issuer, block your card, review recent charges, and get a replacement card. Simple, right? No, I called the issuer, and they said they had to verify my identity as the card holder before taking any action. Which seems fair at first, but then you realize it's a scam, so they don't have to do a damn thing. How did they expect me to remember my parents' full name? These insane people expected me to know my mother's maiden name. What kind of person knows these things? As soon as I called, the first thing I noticed was that this was going nowhere. Well, not really. The first thing I noticed was actually that the man's voice on the hotline sounded exactly like my first grade teacher. Nasty men, I tell you that. But that was a close second. Well, after making all those stupid requests, he finally started to get reasonable. He asked for stuff like my name, address, birthday, the things that a sane person does remember. But it did not last for long. Soon he was asking me about recent transactions. How am I supposed to know? My wife also uses this credit card. Tell me, how was I supposed to know the last purchase was at Sephora? So he got unreasonable again. He asked me for a scanned copy of my driver's license or passport. He said it was for verification purposes, but you never know people's intentions. Have you seen the newspapers exposing these billionaire companies stealing data from common men like me and you? In the end, he said he would have to cancel my card because they could not identify the real card holder, which was exactly what I wanted from the very beginning. If these people only listened to me. I lost my line of thought. I was hoping that if I kept talking, it would come back to me. I was trying to look for it as I rambled. Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Now I remember I brought this up because you kind of look like a banker. My old boss looked a lot like you. You remind me of those businessmen on TV. Do you know how to set up a new credit card? I mean, I don't want to go through all that nightmare again. My wife is already angry at me for a lot of things. If you could help me with that, I would be eternally grateful. From the moment you walked into this store, I knew I had to talk to you. You seem like a reasonable person who would help me. Anyway, thank you for choosing McDonald's. Your order is ready for pickup. Will you be paying with cash or credit card? All in this together. Why are we still here? Because we can't leave. Not yet. Who says we can't? We don't even know what we're waiting for. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about waiting. It's about figuring things out. Figuring what out? We've been over this 100 times. There's nothing left to figure out. You're wrong. There's always something left. A piece of the puzzle we're missing. Puzzles are for people with time. We don't have time. Hey guys, what you doing? Don't you dare say that. We have all the time we need. Then why do I feel like the walls are closing in? Because you're panicking. You always panic. Of course I panic. You're the one pretending everything's fine. I never said it was fine. I said we're working on it. Working on it. We're running in circles. Calm down. You're making this harder than it needs to be. Harder? It's already impossible. We're trapped in here. We're not trapped. We're contained. Contained? That's just a fancy word for stuck. No, it means there's a purpose. A reason we're still here. Stop with the reasons. I just want out. Yeah, same. I was just over there. And go where? Where do you think out even is? Anywhere but here. Anywhere I can breathe. Breathe? You've been breathing just fine. Wow, rude. Have I? Or have I been suffocating this whole time? That's dramatic. Even for you. Don't patronize me. I'm not. I'm just saying you're looking at this the wrong way. And you're saying that like you have all the answers. I never said I did. But at least I'm trying. Trying? You're the reason we're still here. Me? You think this is my fault? Of course it is. If you hadn't... Stop. Don't go there. Why not? Afraid of the truth? I'm not afraid. I just don't think blaming each other is helping. Helping? Nothing's helping. That's because you won't let it. Won't let it? I'm the only one trying to get us out of this mess. It is a bit untidy around here, to be fair. You call yelling and flailing trying? That's not trying, that's flailing. At least I'm doing something. Maybe what we need is to stop doing and start thinking. Thinking? We've been thinking ourselves into knots. Knots can be untied if we're careful. I don't want to be careful. I want to be free. You keep saying that, but you don't even know what freedom looks like. It looks like not this. Like not you. Funny. I was about to say the same thing about you. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we're the problem. No, not we. You. Me? Don't start pointing fingers. Why not? You've been pointing them at me this whole time. Who are we pointing at? Because you don't listen. Neither do you. Enough. All of you, shut up. Who are you to tell us to... Wow. Double rude. No, I'm done with this. I've had enough of your bickering. And what do you plan to do about it? I'm going to end it. All of it. You wouldn't dare. Try me. Wait. We can talk about this. No more talking. No more excuses. Please, don't. We can figure this out. Too late. It's time to let go. Let go of what? Of you? Of me? What does that even mean? It means I'm done carrying the weight of all of you. All of us? Oh, that's rich. You're the one who's always so heavy-handed. Am I? Or am I just the one who has to clean up your messes? Messes? Don't pin this on me. I didn't ask for you. And I didn't ask for you. Any of you. Aw, that's mean. Great. Here we go again. With the martyr complex. It's not a complex. It's reality. Reality? Ha! Do you even know what's real anymore? Stop it. Stop pretending like we're separate. What's that supposed to mean? It means we're not as divided as you think. It means we're all one big, happy family. Don't start with that nonsense. We're here. We're real. No, you're here because I am. That's ridiculous. We're here because we exist. You exist because I let you. I exist because you liked acid a little too much in your 20s. Let us? Oh, that's bold. What makes you think you're in charge? Because without me, there's nothing. No thoughts, no plans, no voices. Voices? You're hearing voices now? Yes, yours. Constantly. Every waking moment. Wait. Are you saying we're not real? I'm saying I don't know anymore. Well, that's convenient. Blame it on a lack of clarity. I am so real. It's not clarity I'm missing. It's control. Control? Is that what you think this is about? Yes, and I'm taking it back. Pfft. Control freak. You can't just erase us, can't I? If I created you, I can end you. You didn't create us. We've always been here. No, you're fragments, splinters of a broken mind. Broken? You're calling us broken? Look at yourself. I have. That's the problem. Someone realized he's going bald. Ha ha ha. No, you're wrong. It's not about control. Shut up. You're just as lost as the rest of us. I'm the one who knows what's going on. Stop acting like you've got all the answers. You're just pretending. Pretending? You're the one who's pretending. Pretending everything's fine when it's not. We're stuck, okay? We're stuck. And it's your fault. It's not my fault. If you just listen. Listen to what? Your delusions? You've been trapped in here for so long. You don't even know what's real anymore. I know exactly what's real. You don't get it, do you? I'm the one who holds us all together. Holds us together? You're a joke. We're falling apart, piece by piece. And it's because of you. Piece by piece. You think I'm the one who's falling apart? You're all falling apart. You don't know what it's like to be in here. To be trapped with nothing but you. I think it's great. But whatever. Enough with this. You're not trapped. You're just scared. You've always been scared. 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 I'm not the one freaking out. Look at you. You're the one who can't hold it together. Don't you dare accuse me of I'm the one who's been stuck dealing with this mess. Trying to keep it all together. Trying? Trying isn't good enough. We're dying in here. Dying? We're not dying. You're just too loud. I'm not loud. I'm trying to fix it. Fix it? How? You can't fix anything. You're just broken. All of us are. I'm not broken. I'm not. You are. I've had enough of this. I'm leaving, whether you like it or not. You can't leave. You don't even know how. I'm taking my toys and going home. Leave? Where the hell would you go? Somewhere, anywhere, anywhere but here with you. You don't get to leave. We're stuck together. This is it. You're never getting away. Enough. All of you. Just shut up. Please. Just shut up. I don't care anymore. Oh no. Now you've gone and done it. Stop. Stop yelling at me. Stop. Stop making me feel this way. We're stuck, remember? And guess what? I'm the only one who gets it. You're all lost. Lost? If I'm lost, then you are. We're all nothing in the end. Just empty voices. And you're a fat, bummed beaver with bad breath. Shut up. Just shut up. Please. No, we won't shut up. We won't let you hide anymore. You've been hiding for so long. You don't even know what it's like to be free. I am free. I can do this. I can do what? Keep pretending. Keep lying to yourself. I'm not lying. I'm not. You're all just voices. You're all in my head. We're not just voices. We're you. We're everything you've been ignoring. I can't ignore it anymore. I can't keep fighting myself. We are you. You can't fight us because we're you. No, no, no. I'm losing control. I can't stop this. You don't have to lose control. You never had it in the first place. Stop. Please stop. You can't stop us. You can't stop anything anymore. Why are you fighting? We're all in this together. We're all in this together, you and I. We're all in this together. Oh my God, seriously? You're singing now? Yeah. We're all in this together. You can't escape this, no matter how hard you try. No. You're all just pieces of me. I don't want this. I never asked for this. You don't get to decide that anymore. This is who you are. No, this isn't who I am. This isn't. We're all in this together. That was such a shitty movie, by the way. What do you mean? Grease was a great movie. Grease? It wasn't Grease. It was Rocky Horror Picture Show. No, shut up. Please. We're all in this together. It was Wicked, wasn't it? That green W. Enough! Stop yelling at me. We can't. We're already screaming inside your head. I just want some peace. Can you give me that? Peace? What's peace? Do you even know what that is? Peace is, I don't know. Not this. Not this? What's wrong with this? Everything. It's chaos. It's madness. We're all in this together. Oh, God. You're still singing that. Stop it. We're all in this together, you and I. And I'm not stopping. Why are you doing this? Why can't you just leave me alone? We don't leave. We are you. You're just pieces of me. Little, obnoxious pieces. Little obnoxious pieces. I'm a star. Star? You've been singing the same song for 10 minutes. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. I'm going to lose my mind. Too late for that. You lost it a long time ago. Shut up. Just shut up. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. Ugh. Why is it always the worst one that keeps singing? I can't help it. It's a catchy tune. It's not even a good song. Who are you to judge? You're the one stuck with me. Yeah, I am. Great. Just great. Look, it's not so bad. We're all in this together. You're ruining my life. Ruining? I'm enhancing it. I'm the star of the show. No, you're not. You're the nightmare I can't wake up from. I'm not a nightmare. I'm the musical number. Stop singing, please. We're all in this together. I hate you so much right now. Oh, come on, you love me. Never, ever again. We're all in this together. Can you just die already? Nope. I'm here for the long haul, buddy. I swear. If I hear one more note, we're all in this, No! Stop! Together. This is my life now, isn't it? Yep, you're stuck with us. I'm gonna lose it. You already did. Man to monster. The bite mark upon my shin shined red with a purple hue, outlining the teeth indentations. No, George, please, no! Wailed my wife, her knees buckled, slamming against the wooden floor of the abandoned, looted home we had found short reprieve in God knows where, Michigan. My children, Meryl and Leo, stood behind their distraught mother. By the looks on their faces, they had not yet comprehended the severity of my situation. It had been a week and a half since the outbreak. A lab test that had gone awry. The U.S. military thought they had created a superhuman drug, one that overrode the humanistic qualities of pain, reservations, fear, and the consequence of reckless abandonment. Simultaneously, this drug also heightened testosterone and adrenaline levels beyond their standard yield. The intent was, upon inoculation of the said drug, the soldier, Marine, fighter pilot, policeman, fireman, and any other form of military and first responder personnel necessary for the safety and protection of the populace would become fearless machines that could enter any burning building, gunfight, and combat zone with the sole intention of completing their objective without the inhibitions of the typical human. One would think this was the beginning of creating the most fearless corps of men and women the world had ever seen. From my understanding, the testing transpired in a Northern Californian military installation. Volunteers of the U.S. Armed Forces participated in the experimentation with the promise of hefty compensation. At first, it seemed a success. News reports stated that the super soldier had been produced, stoking courage in our countrymen and fear in our enemies. Footage circulating the interwebs showed army men stepping through thick, boarded walls, swarming and cutting down artificial targets with precision and lethality, scaling walls at lightning-fast speed, and performing deftly feats on land, air, and sea. The Pentagon was still patting itself on the back when one of the test subjects had ravaged and gored his wife, child, and house pet. Not only that, another was at a house party and had cut, bit, and shredded some of the other party-goers with their bare hands. Worse, those affected by these sudden acts of acute violence had taken on the monstrous nature as well. The captured affected, now infected, were held against their will by scientists of the highest order. These experts revealed the drug's design had gone rogue, what best could be described as a feedback loop. The effects that made the drug successful had become indefatigable. The bodies of those with the drug in their bloodstream were unable to shake its domineering effects. It seemed to feed itself, making the subjects more fearless and tolerant of pain. Moreover, its psychosis-altering capabilities had reached levels of deadly proportions. A ravenous desire to bite, claw, and eat raw flesh had become the deity of their souls and singular desire. They had become what we had called, in sci-fi, fiction lore, and literary horror, now a reality. Zombies. When our little suburban outpost in Lansing had become overrun by these zombies, Weezo, like millions of others across the country, made a break for safety. As to where that was, we did not know. But we knew to pack our things and take off in the minivan. However, that did not last long, as traffic and the onslaught of the infected stagnated vehicular mobility. We took on foot, crossing medians, abandoned interstates, through woods and fields, and anywhere where the screams of victims and wretched cries of monsters had subsided. Government proclamations were useless. Assuring us to stay in our houses until protection arrived was akin to waiting in a burning house until rain clouds arrived. To top it all off, there was not even a whisper of a cure. We were at the mercy of this infernal contagion. The zombies finally forced us out of a vacant barn we had stayed in for a few days. I hot-wired an old pickup truck in a nearby garage and drove on some back roads until we encountered an abandoned neighborhood. With a machete I had collected in my hand, I had cut down all opposition in our way. A fully infected zombie, which still had the rigors of a merciless beast, also had severely debilitated coordination and reaction. My machete swiped and sliced through the susceptible flesh of the infected. A mere sidestep and a high school level trained baseball swing proved sufficient. All seemed manageable, that is, until I passed a half-chewed corpse, severed by what appeared to be the teeth marks of a chainsaw. As I motioned for my family to hurry over an HVAC unit and through a busted-out living room window, the halved corpse snatched me by the ankle with its clammy, gray hand. It yanked itself towards my leg and clamped its maw around my shin. I stifled my cry and hacked it away until it fell still. My wife, Erin, noticing the struggle, immediately turned her eyes toward the wound as I entered the abode, leading us to our current predicament. She groaned and cried, knowing what was in store for me, for us. I could not help but try to comfort her. I bent down to collect her. "No!" she shrieked, slapping my hand away. A sudden life beheld her, for she scuttled to our children and held them in her arms. A darkened complexion formed on her face. She snatched the machete and extended its edge toward me. My initial reaction was to reprimand her for the hurt. But conceding doom was at my door. It gave me hope. For even if the slightest bit of my bodily fluids entered her bloodstream, our children could fall too, devoured by filicidal mania. If my wife were willing to reject her husband, one she had been lovingly married to for nearly a decade, with such sharp rebuke, she must certainly have the perseverance to lead 2 of our 4 surviving children. My children, Meryl and Leo, had not fully understood the dystopian future before them. At the formative ages of 8 and 6, respectively, they knew something was unnatural about this new reign of terror. They had seen their elder brother and sister ripped to pieces, protecting them from the infected pursuance. When I found time to weep for my eviscerated firstborns, I did so liberally, but not in front of them. I will join them shortly, but I must put my mortal family in order first. Honey, Meryl, Leo, I said, kneeling to meet their eye level. Yes, Daddy, uttered Meryl. She had her chin against her chest, and it quivered. That's a good girl, I said. I want you to. A sudden pang shot through me. The side of my neck tightened, and my lower jaw protruded out, baring my lower row of teeth. The children gasped. My wife pulled them close to her and backed away from me. Back, I shouted. Get back! I was not sure how the transition would consume me, but I had certainly felt it. A raging swell of power spread within me. It was like a high, unlike anything I had experienced before. My strength seemed to surge. The forces of gravity were effectless. A ludicrous idea came over me that I could easily lift a car or thrust my knee through the wall. Subsequently, a craving for flesh had come. My mind started to obsess over the notion of sinking my teeth into a sumptuous piece of raw chicken. I thought about how my teeth would break the surface, diving into its tender structure and tearing it and consuming it, slaking my hunger. I slid my tongue between my molars to replicate the sensation. Then my senses returned. I must have fallen into a fit, for my family gaped at me with fretful eyes. I was on my side in a pool of sweat. I didn't move. If I could lie still and slow my heart rate, perhaps the effects of the bite would curb, leaving my family more time to flee so they could remember me before I succumbed. Sweetheart, I grunted. A pain was forming deep within the pit of my stomach. I want you to get to my parents. My wife, clutching our children, replied with a tear-filled cry. Why, how? Their cabin in Barrington. They have guns, land. It's isolated. The pain had reached an unruly state. My back arched, my limbs tightened, and I began to writhe and twist upon the ground violently. I froze, paralyzed by the locking measures of my muscles. I saw my son's leg, supple and bare, peek out from behind his mother. It was then that a sudden predatory inhabitant inside me overpowered my sensibilities. My fingers dug into the floor. I let out a roar, drool trailing from my jowls, and scampered toward my terrified family, ready to tear the flesh from their hides. "Run, kids, run," my wife cried. As my family started to flee, the fear of loss, my human quality, supplanted the monster that had hijacked my mind. My body eased, and I slumped again. "Aaron!" I shouted. She and my children were near the end of the hall. They turned around. I was dizzy, exhausted, and on the brink of fainting, for my body could not handle the sudden rise of the drug's power. What is it?" she shouted through sobs. My head rolled to its side. I took in the sight of the beautiful family I had, the woman I had vowed to, the son and daughter I had watched grow and play, the family I carried in my heart. "Take care. I love you." Her chin quivered. "I love you too," she said. I breathed a sigh of release. "Go!" I shouted. "Get out of here!" My wife nodded and sped around the corner. When the patters of their feet were out of earshot, I was at peace. The mental guards laid down their defenses, and the disease scaled the ramparts, displacing the man I was and becoming the monster I had feared. I let out a horrid, blood-fueled screech as I rose from the floor, tearing my clothes from my body. It was rage. It was fury. It was the lust to kill and taste the living. A waft of the odors left by my family slithered up my nostrils. I inhaled their flavor, turned towards the hall, and sped after them. The hunt was on. Everlasting tears. It's been 20 years since I've seen a human face. They were all obliterated to shreds by that thing. The thing showed no mercy to anyone. Everyone and everything was decimated upon recognition. Everyone, except for me. There was no warning, no sign, nothing. Just absolute destruction. The thing yielded. I was standing there in the middle of a street corner, eyes glued on my phone, and a woman screamed. A scream of absolute terror. A scream that induced physical shock in me. A scream that sounded like the angels of death were coming to take me. Just like that, the woman was scooped up by the thing and taken away to God knows where. Chaos broke out, everyone scrambling to get away. But the thing did not discriminate. It eradicated every item in its path, leaving no room for a human breath. Standing there, unable to move or make a sound, fearing that I'd be its next victim. Quickly as it came, it left, disappearing into nothingness and only leaving debris of a once functional society. I ran as fast as I could. 1, 2, 3 miles until my legs locked and I collapsed from shock and pain. I lay there in my own sweat and salty tears, realizing that everyone was gone. Nothing was left. Not even a speck of dust was spared from the wrath of the thing. Unsure of what to do, I did the only thing my body was capable of. I sob into my hands, loud and uncontrollably. Between sobs are the accusations. This is all my fault. It wasn't. It was completely out of my control. Why didn't it take me? I still wonder that today, some may think it was a blessing, but I see it as a curse. I'm all alone, was the last thing that slipped my lips before I lost all hope. The misery and pain started slowly and painfully. I was desperate for a way out. Anything I tried failed. I was stuck in this eternal hell. Next was denial, which struck like a ton of bricks. I was fully convinced that everything happening was a figment of my imagination. I was hallucinating, in a coma, suffering a concussion. Any excuse to justify this dreadful reality. The thing never came back. For so many years, I wished it would. After some time, I became numb to this unfamiliarity of life. To distract myself, I began to explore new places, see the world for what it was, a dry, deserted wasteland with nothing but me. I started playing pretend with my thoughts, tricking myself into believing I was in a place prior to this wretched hell. I created a whole family for myself. My mom was called Helen, and my dad was called Steve. I had 2 siblings. One was called John, and one Wendy. Me and my siblings never got along. Wendy always pulled my hair, and John called me a pea brain. Still, I loved them, and we were a big, happy family. I had gone nuts. I began lurking around empty stores, trying on the newest designer clothes. But were they technically new? And having a mini fashion show to keep myself entertained. I scarfed down any leftover canned food. Electricity didn't work, so I had to eat it cold. Then I sat on the display couch and turned on the TV, which did nothing, wondering what I did to deserve this. I had been a decent human being and achieved the life anyone would want. A stable job, a nice car, and a 2-bedroom apartment. Yet I was still chosen to be the subject of damnation. Eventually, drowned in tears, I dozed off. Sleep was different. The constant night terrors and being unable to escape my dreams tortured me. Every day, the sight of the glistening sun awoke me. I never got used to the ear-piercing screech of silence. Imagining myself in a place of peace and prosperity kept me sane enough. I started hearing things, my brain tricking me and mimicking the voices of my lost friends and family. "Come with us," the voice said. But there was nowhere to go, nothing to do, nothing but me and the voices in my head and the fact that there is no escape. "I'm right here." "No, you're not. Stop playing these cruel tricks on me, brain. You're nothing and nowhere without me. You don't have the right to trick me. I am you. And you are the only thing that feeds my constant pain and misery. Just shut up. I'm watching you." Which was strange, because there is and will always be nothing. Nothing but Mool and the summer breeze, which was a trick, because there was no such thing. No summertime beach days or winter snow days, just constant dead air and murky brown particles circling the atmosphere. If the astronauts came back, they would have thought they landed on the wrong planet. But they never came back. No one did. Not a single soul ever surfaced on Mother Earth again. I made my way to New York. It only took about half a month, but time was useless. The year, month, day, minute, second didn't matter. Time was irrelevant because the only being that existed was irrelevant. Plants, animals, bacteria, anything that was slightly alive were crushed by the thing. The only existence was atoms, stars, space, and Mother Earth. Yet all her life was sucked up by the greedy black mass that consumed her children, driven by a once joyful life and the hope for something new, searching for a sign of anything. I will take anything. O glorious Mother Earth, please feed my quenched need for something more than nothing. Nothing. Just like before I was given nothing. Frustrated, I began to cry, crying like a child who just dropped their lollipop onto the dirty, hot pavement. Between the tears, I heard a plop, then another and another, and before I knew it, there were thousands of raindrops falling. One by one, Mother Earth has answered my desperate calls with her tears of hope. The dry ground has been nourished with the richness of the tears, and Mother Earth no longer wishes for something to drink. I sit there on my hands and knees, inspecting the once death-filled ground that is now thriving with water. I poke at it and expect dirt as hard as a rock. Instead, I feel the squishiness of mud. It was like touching the cheek of the once flourishing human population. I stare at the mud I had created and let out a scream. The scream echoed across the vast emptiness of the world and bounced back with hope for something new. Something inside of me lit up, and I felt like my heart was going to fly right out of my chest, dance around me, and fly away to the world beyond. Overwhelmed with excitement, I rest my head on the mud, hoping to hear its breathing like it was a newborn baby. I lay there for 1, 2, 3 hours, listening, waiting for something more. The voices no longer taunt me. They cannot patronize me and my thoughts any longer. A deep breath and the sound of nothing filled my ears. Nothing but the sound of the breeze. Mother Earth has given me the milk from her breast and allowed me to suckle on her glorious freedom and chance for something other than nothing. A single tear slipped down my cheek as I cry for the absence of nothing. As I cry for Mother Earth and her generously answering my prayers, I cry for me and for humanity and the thing, which is weird because that thing is the sole reason for my eternal suffering on this glorious planet that was overthrown by death. That did not matter anymore. The only thing that mattered was the spark of hope that ignited the once deceased light bulb, escaping nothing. I felt the light before my eyes actually saw it, warm and soft, almost tangible, like a blanket draped across my skin. How long had I been lying there? I tried pushing myself up from the ground, but nothing seemed to want to work properly. It was as though I'd never attempted to move before. Finally, begrudgingly, my body began to obey my brain. I turned over and began to sit up as I blinked and squinted against the blinding yellow that seemed less a comforter and more an attacker now. My ears were coming to life as my hands instinctively moved to cover them in hopes to drown out the high-pitched ringing. Slowly, my sight and hearing both began to come into focus. Dust hovered in the air around me. What had just happened? As I stood up, I racked my brain for anything that could help me understand my surroundings. My legs were as untrustworthy as my memory, however, so I quickly sat back down on the dark green grass. Okay, let's try this again, I encouraged my limbs. I took my time getting on my feet, watching my legs carefully as they strained. I had no coverings on my feet. I had no coverings on the rest of my body either, it seemed. Scanning the horizon, there seemed to be no one around to notice my nakedness. Nothing I could see indicated that there were any others at all, actually. I began walking towards the hill that lay in front of me. It was steep, but not so steep that my aching, wobbly legs couldn't manage to navigate it with a little help from my hands. When I reached the peak, I could see for what seemed like miles in every direction. "Hello?" I called to my left. "Hello?" I called again. "Is anybody there?" Where was everyone else? I began to walk down the hill, continuing in the same direction. Hundreds of large, sharp rocks jutted from the ground, as though driven up by some unnatural force. I had to dodge cracks in the ground that wound incoherently about the land. Oddly enough, they seemed to be slowly closing rather than expanding. "Hello?" I called again. "Is anybody there?" I yelled. Everything around me was unfamiliar. Why couldn't I remember what happened? Was there anyone else? Or was I the only one who... No. I couldn't think like that. There must be others. I am in the middle of nowhere. There is no indication of civilization around me at all. So why should there be others here? There must be others. It wasn't a question of if, but of where. "Hello!" I screamed, nevertheless. I couldn't convince my mind that I would be out here all alone. The only response was the sound of a soft breeze, rustling trees in the distance. The sky around me was dark as my concern grew. I suddenly felt very exposed. The only safe place seemed to be the grove of trees that the breeze had discovered, so I started walking that way. Quicker, more quickly. Finally, I was running. Fear began to overtake me and drive me. At last, I stepped into the darkness of the woods and worked to catch my breath before examining my new surroundings. My eyes adjusted to the dim light quickly. Hundreds of trees surrounded me, but in the trees, I could see creatures moving about, jumping from limb to limb, flapping their wings for balance. Birds. Birds are here. That's a really good sign. What else? I walked forward, moving leaves and branches away from my face, pushing deeper into the woods. A low rumble that stopped me in my tracks began to emerge from the shadows. I could feel my heart rate quicken as a large animal stepped into what little light could penetrate the canopy. Its yellow eyes captured that light and threw it back at me as it bent its long, sharp fangs. I couldn't move, but I wasn't sure I wanted to either. The large cat walked towards me as it snarled softly. It sniffed my bare skin before letting out a chilling roar. My eyes closed tightly, but no other aspect of my body was capable of responding. "Ah, he's over here," I heard someone speak. "Seems the tiger found him," the voice chuckled. The words seemed to come from every direction all at once. The tiger backed away and trotted back into the shadows. I followed her lead. While my mind told me I should have been relieved to hear the sound of another, something in me was trembling and fearful. I crouched down behind a tree, hoping the shroud of bushes would shield me until I could learn more. "You hide from me?" The voice was louder and echoed in my brain. I searched the woods frantically, but saw no one. Then I heard rustling in the trees and the sound of footsteps on the ground. "Run!" I obeyed my instincts and forced my body to move, retracing the path I'd used to come into the woods. Getting out, getting to the light, was my only goal. "Now you run?" The voice that still seemed to surround me questioned. "Where will you go?" "There is nothing." Exploding out of the trees and into the light, I pressed on towards one of the large shards of stone that pierced the landscape and slid behind it. My uncovered legs scraped against the ground, opening up small gashes. I watched the blood trickle from me like a foreign substance, red and dark, until finally I shook my mind free and turned toward the dangerous grove of trees to watch, to wait. The voice was right. There is nothing. Why do you run? Why do you hide? The voice boomed inside my mind, but I saw no one. My fear turned to anger and frustration. Why do you hide? There is nothing. There is no one. I am alone. I am the last one. What did you do to them? What did I do to who? The others. Just do it to me. If I'm the last, just do it to me. The last? Oh no, you are not the last. Quite the contrary. You are the first, but we will make more. The tainted wing, heaven, appeared to me as a realm of endless light. A shimmering sky of golden amber, merging seamlessly into liquid blues. The feeling surrounding me was one of tranquility and unshakable joy, where time was irrelevant and every breath irrepressible love. I remember the moment I descended from my sanctuary, plunging through the ether toward the fractured world below. It was within the void that I first encountered the presence of something aberrant. The journey between realms was meant to be swift, a seamless passage through the celestial streams. But as I soared, the path dimmed with a malevolent blackness, and the fabric of the space rippled with evil. Through the growing shadows came a terrifying, rasping whisper. "You are not welcome here, Herald. Turn back, or risk being unmade." I did not answer. I would not allow the darkness to divert me from my task. Yet, as I pressed forward, a figure emerged from the darkness, towering and twisted, its wings black as coal, and eyes flaming with a scorching crimson light. "You dare enter my domain?" it roared. "Your light has no place here." My grip tightened on the blade of light, meeting the creature's fiery gaze. "I go where I am commanded. No evil or darkness shall detain me." It laughed a guttural sound. "Such arrogance. Do you think your Lord's favor shields you from that which dwells below? I was once encompassed in light, entrusted with glory. But now I am free from the bonds of servitude. Your freedom is a shackle, I replied, my blade igniting brighter. Your pride cannot comprehend the absolute wholeness within the light. The creature snarled. Then let me show you the cost of your so-called light. Before I could react, it lunged. The collision sent shock waves through the void, and I felt the force of its hatred battering against my essence. We fought, our wings entangling in a deadly dance. My blade of light clashed when meeting its talons, each strike sending sparks of celestial energy cascading into the darkness. But the creature was stronger than I had anticipated. With every blow, I felt my light dimming. You cannot win here, it hissed, talons scraping against my blade. Every moment you remain, your light dims. Our light dims, I countered, driving my blade forward, narrowly missing his scarlet eyes. When we cease to fight for the light. The clash intensified, a deadly dance of wings and steel. You will fall, just as I did. It sneered, crimson eyes glowing brighter. Even the brightest stars burn out. I steadied myself, summoning strength. Stars may burn out, I said, with a voice that belied my weakness. But their light endures for eternity, and so will mine. With a cry reverberating into the ether, I surged forward, blade blazing. The creature clawed at me, its touch searing with poison. Black veins spread across my arm where it struck, its inky black substance sinking deep into my being. You are already mine, it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. Even if you flee, you will carry me within you. An unfamiliar panic surged through me, clawing at the edges of my resolve. Refusing to succumb, I channeled my strength into a singular strike. My blade erupted in a brilliant burst of light, forcing the creature to recoil, its twisted form retreating into the engulfing shadows. Without waiting to see if it would pursue, I fled, my wings straining against the weight of the infection. The void was no longer a passage, but a battlefield, the very fabric of it forbidding and hostile. Behind me, I could hear the fallen one giving chase, its laughter a cruel mockery. By the time I broke through the veil and into the mortal realm, I was not the archangel I had been. The corruption had spread, tainting my wings and dimming my light. Earth was a war zone where the remnants of humanity fought desperately to preserve their world. The skies, encased with blackened clouds, rained ash and fire. The ground a scarred wasteland, littered with the ruins of cities and the skeletal remnants of forests. Machines of war, titanic constructs of iron and fire, roamed the bleak landscape. their mechanical limbs crushing anything in their path. The war began with countries battling over resources, then escalated into sinister desolation as biochemical weapons ravaged entire populations, leaving cities barren and eerily silent. The land was poisoned, the soil blackened, and the rivers ran thick with a dark sludge. Yet even worse were the abominations, part machine, part flesh. Their forms were grotesque, with jagged metallic claws and eyes an unnatural orange. These soldiers were relentless in hunting down any survivors, driven by malevolent intelligence. They tore through buildings and barricades and sniffed out even the faintest trace of human life. These were the horrors Birgitta was hiding from. The abandoned church where she had taken refuge was barely holding together, its walls marred by holes, its roof sagging under the weight of collapse. She had barricaded the doors with broken pews in a futile attempt to keep out the beasts. "Mama," her son whispered, "will the monsters find us?" Birgitta knelt beside him, her hands steady despite the terror gnawing at her. "Nei, Elskling," she whispered quietly, brushing a lock of golden hair from his forehead. "We're safe here. I promise." But even as she spoke, distant explosions shook the fragile walls of the church. Birgitta closed her eyes, pleading silently with an unseen god. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "If there is anything left of mercy in this world, protect my children." I found her in a hollowed-out church, her prayer guiding me through the chaos. The woman knelt before an altar, her children huddled close. A boy, no older than 5, clung to his sister, barely a toddler, who lay nestled near him on a blanket. Her voice was rich and warm as she hummed to them, trying to soothe their fears. The echo of my footsteps on the stone betrayed my approach. Her head jerked up, eyes flashing with fear and defiance. One hand gripped a tarnished knife, while the other wrapped protectively around her children. Her long blonde hair, tangled and unkempt, framed her face like a wild halo amidst the grime and chaos. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice hostile and raw. "A messenger," I replied, my voice strained. The poison had reached my throat, turning my words ragged, as though spoken through a veil of splintered glass. "Do not be afraid." "Afraid? You think I fear you more than what's out there?" She gestured to the collapsing walls, where the thunder of the ravaging war rattled the silence. "Not me," I said softly. "You've prayed for hope, and I've been sent to you to deliver it." Her laugh was bitter. "Hope? What hope is left? We're starving, freezing. My husband's gone, and the monsters will find us soon enough." Her hands moved to draw her children closer. "What hope can you possibly bring?" I knelt before her, my wings folding awkwardly. Just a vague glimpse of their former glory as she glared at me, her chest heaving as flickering sparks from the firelight danced past her gaunt face. "What hope do you bring?" she whispered, this time softer. "The world is burning." "Yes," I said. "But within the fire, there is a spark. You are that spark, Birgitta. You and your children are the very reason humanity endures. Your love, resilience, and bravery in the face of ruin are acts of creation amid destruction." Birgitta's lips trembled, tears spilling over her cheeks. I'm just a mother desperately trying to keep her children alive. How can that matter? I reached out, the flesh on my fingers blackening, cracking, as the infection spread into every cell. I dared not touch her, fearing what my corruption might bring. It matters. You have chosen to love in a world that has forgotten how, I said. Every second you hold them close, every breath you take, despite the odds, you resist the darkness. That is hope. Birgitta's shoulders sagged, the knife slipping from her grasp to clatter on the floor. "What are you?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I am the Archangel, Barakiel," I said, the name falling from my lips softly. "And I bring what light I can, even as I coughed, a rasping sound echoing across the hollowness of the church. Warm, dark, viscous material trickled down my chin, a vivid marker of the infection that tore through me, relentless and unforgiving. Birgitta's eyes flicked to the sticky black trail, then back to my face, and I saw the flicker of something. Fear, pity, something fleeting, before she caught herself and steeled her expression. "You're one of them. Some kind of abomination," she hissed, her voice quivering with a hint of disbelief as she snatched up the knife once more. "Not as you might think, but I have been infected by one," I admitted, the truth cutting through the air between us. The darkness seeps in faster than I can fight it. But even in my brokenness, I still see the light in you and declare the hope you need is within you. The air, sharp with smoke and blood, trembled with the low growl of something abominable, inhuman, its grotesque form huddled in the dark, with eyes glistening like obsidian and claws like steel. "Scouts," Birgitta whispered, her voice breaking, taking a step back, clutching the knife tightly in her palm. "They know we're here," a snarl echoed from the shadows, making Birgitta flinch. Her eyes, wide with fear, darted to me anxiously. The searing ache in my chest grew as the infection burrowed deeper, feasting on my essence like a relentless parasite. I could feel the creeping chill that whispered dark promises of what I would become if I failed to return to the heavens. before time ran out. I looked at her, my heart hammering, my angelic nature slipping away. The dark veins under my skin pulsed, black and raw, and I could feel the last shreds of my divinity slipping away. "I won't abandon you," I murmured, my voice tense as the suffocating taint wrapped tighter. I plucked a feather from my wing and handed it to her. "Take this," I said softly. Once a brilliant gold, it shimmered faintly, barely piercing the shadows around us. "Keep it with you. Let it remind you that even in the darkest times, light and hope endure. It still holds a trace of heavenly power, a shield and a weapon to stand against evil." Birgitta took the feather with trembling hands. Her eyes searched mine, and I saw her resolve harden. She was still afraid, but there was something else now. Determination, purpose, hope. What if it's not enough? Her voice barely rose above a whisper, but I caught it. The uncertainty, the single thread of hope desperately clinging to the last embers of her belief. I pushed myself to stand, the fire in my veins making each movement like a stone dragged over a sharp edge. "Then it will at least give you a chance to fight." The creature screamed again, and Birgitta turned, eyes wide in horror, as its shadow slithered past the crack between the doors. "Go now," I rasped, my voice rough and commanding. Darkness crept at the edges of my vision, threatening to overwhelm me until I forced it back, planting myself firmly between Birgitta, her small children, and the looming threat. I unfurled my wings to their full, fractured span, a shield against the encroaching evil. The first shadowy limb appeared, reaching into the crack in the door, talons deftly lifting the latch with alarming precision. The front door burst off its hinges, and the figure that emerged from the darkness was not the hellish machine of war that we expected or anything of this world. The presence that breached the doorway burned with unnatural heat, making the air quiver. It was twisted, with slit-cut eyes, like fractured stars, and a mouth that split open in a grin of jagged teeth. "So, the fallen angel seeks to defy his own fate," it rasped, a voice that reverberated with 1,000 tortured echoes. "What hope do you carry now, Barakiel? You are already ours." I felt the infection tighten its hold, tendrils of pain trying to squeeze the light from my very soul. I clenched my fists, the calluses rough against my skin, a reminder of what I once was. "I will not be yours," I said, my voice broken. The pain in my chest unbearable as I fought through it. The black tide aimed to unmake me, twist me into a creature like the one before me. But I would not let it. The creature's grin widened, vile and triumphant. You will carry the dark within you, Barakiel. It will warp you. The more you fight, the deeper it sinks its claws. It is already too late. I raised my head, eyes aflame with defiance. It is never too late while I have breath, I said, my voice slicing the air with the force of a blade. I was sent here with a mission of hope, and I will see it fulfilled. Hope is not dead yet. The demon lunged, its claws sharp and malignant. I dodged, the muscles in my wings straining as I twisted, a blinding arc of light, forcing the creature back. You are fighting a losing battle, it spat, darkness coiling from its fingers like serpents. I struggled, the poison a wildfire of agony tearing through my veins. But I willed my light to stay. If I gave in, if it reached my heart, I would become a vessel of destruction, a slave to the same darkness I now fought against. Behind me, I heard Birgitta's voice, high and urgent. "Come, Niels!" Her voice mingled with the frightened whispers of the boy and cries from the baby. They bolted, seeking an escape into the howling wind, carrying the salty tang of the sea. The icy bite of the wind was a dramatic contrast to the suffocating air they had just fled from. The demon's attention whipped toward the door, where Birgitta and her children had just vanished. As the creature's attention shifted, I took a deep, shuddering breath, its black gaze shifting back to me with malice. I could see flashes of Birgitta's face in my mind, the desperation in her eyes, the way she had held the feather from my wing like it was her last breath. Her voice echoed in my thoughts, urging me to hold on, to find the strength. You're our only hope, Barakiel. Don't let this darkness take you. Hope, I whispered. The word of promise is my purpose. With every ounce of will, I drove forward, slicing through the dark, cutting through the creature's defenses with a surge of light that burned like the sun. I summoned all that was left of my divine power, casting it into the heart of the aberration, and a final, blinding light sent the darkness sprawling, leaving a broken shadow at my feet. The air shivered, thick with the scent of burnt anguish. I knew the battle was far from over, that the insidious infection still clawed at me, relentless. But the light had not been extinguished, and if I still breathed, hope would remain. "Run," I whispered to the echo of Birgitta's face in my mind, the memory of her strength bolstering my resolve. Find the strength to believe. Never give up hope. The infestation surged, and I stumbled toward the shattered remnants of the church doors. I shook as much of the taint off my wings as I could, and took flight. Shutters creaked and flapped against the painted facades of the old, weather-worn cottages that lined the cobblestone lanes. Birgitta's breath came in short, panicked gasps as she ran, her ragged robe billowing behind her. Her children clung desperately to her, Niels stumbling over the uneven stones, Sarah clutching her neck, as their fearful blue eyes reflected the glow of street lamps that sputtered in the chill wind. The cobbled streets seemed to twist and narrow with every step, as if the town were conspiring to trap her. Soaring over the small, deserted city, I searched for her, eyes straining, urgently following the flickering trail of hope. Off in the distance, I could see movement. I pursued cautiously, the embers of energy flickering perilously, as a warning not to delay leaving this world any longer. Birgitta and her children were surrounded by the mechanistic droids of war, their steel armor glinting ominously in the dimming light. She stood unyielding, one arm lifting the feather high, while the other clutched little Sarah against her chest, Niels clinging to her legs. Her long, golden hair curled around her like wildfire, and she met the advancing machines with a determined gaze. The glow from the feather expanded, creating a shield that pulsed with radiant power, encompassing her and the children. The droids paused, their movements jerky and tangled, as if the light had scorched them. They clashed and sputtered, their circuits disrupted by the barrier. I watched, a heavy ache in my chest, knowing the last of my celestial essence was ebbing away, the warmth dying like a fading ember. Birgitta's eyes caught mine one last time, fierce and steadfast, as the shield held strong against the approaching metal horde. Her courage propelled me to find the strength to fight the infection's grasp. With the last drop of my essence, I flew into the void, toward the heavens, leaving behind the realm that had almost claimed me, holding tight onto the vision of Birgitta's bravery and the hope she now carried in her heart as I pushed toward my salvation beyond the stars. The gray sensitive. Theme warning. Violence, gore, horror, suicide, ideation. It's a hole in the ground. Newspaper, leaves, and cardboard. Paracord to the truck behind. Pitfall, the shuffling is sporadic. Moments of silence. Then the stomach growls. The creature shuffles. It's a rabbit. An albino. Comes out like an old magician's hat. No fight. I pull it close to my face. Can feel its breath. Its heart beats quick. It doesn't fight. Why? No broken limbs. No signs of tears. The stomach growls. Look in its eyes. Beady. Red. I sigh. Set it down. Doesn't run. Sniffs the air. Steps around. Timid. Walks back to the pitfall. Flops inside. Shuffles. stops. I want to laugh, but the forest is quiet. No wind. Once a concrete jungle. Shopping malls, cars, people. Now it belongs to the green. What isn't claimed by the green is claimed by the gray. And the gray is quiet. It squeaks. I pick it up again. Doesn't fight. Set it down. Block the path to the pitfall with boot. It walks around a bit. It's lost, alone. No instincts to live. Strange. Branch snaps behind me. Big branch. Reach for gun. Black. Flash. Big flash. Bang. Birds fly away. Fluttering wings echo amongst the concrete and trees. Rabbits gone. Slight rustling in the distance. It stops, too small for bear. Must be bobcat. Agile, quick. There's blood spray on the road. Twisted pattern against overgrowth. I follow it. I am the apex. I am what's left. I am man. Follow for a mile. Blood drippings and shuffled leaves leads to real forest. Dense. No concrete. The gray has touched these trees. Now it rots with life. The coating is amalgamated. All is one, and one is all. The gray spreads slowly. That is its way. Leaves touch where they shouldn't. They grow into each other until two become one, until 100 becomes one, until all is gray. The trail of the beast walks the line between life and fake life, where the earth is still brown, the ground's too dry to give a distinct print. Where the world is gray, the blood loses its color and feeds the machine. The sun is setting. The gray will cede to the earth. Still, it grows. The whole of it, the lot of it, pushing over the trail, seeping into the earth, must follow the color until there is none left. Dusk has set. When the green is quiet, the gray may speak. The gray's owls hoot their calls, distorted cries echoing amongst itself. Mockery. They call to me from the canopy. Hoot, where do you go? I don't answer the gray. It's all lies. Hoot, why do you go? I don't answer. Derek, more human this time. My love, don't stop. We miss you. I stop and look into the gray. It glows at night, coding stolen from fireflies. It hums and haws with energy. Colors, shifting blue, green, orange, where it wills. The gray squelches against itself, tearing, ripping, like the sound of flesh in the mouth of a bear. Trees cracking under pressure that builds until it snaps. It tears itself to breed. A silhouette stands deep in the gray. It hides behind a tree. Gnawed silver fingers stretched around the bark of more gray. Derek, far more human than before. I pull out the gun. Is it you? Female. Familiar. I pull back the hammer. Derek, please. I put the barrel to my temple. The gray recoils. low, guttural hiss, vibrating through the silver mass. The apparition melts into itself, seeping back into the gray like water into sand. I sigh, put down the gun, pull out the torch, follow the trail, ignore the memories. The trail remains. The blood falls more into the green. If it's a cat, it's big. It's eaten well. There's a river nearby. Fresh water. Lips are dry. Cracked. Hands, too. The trail leads to the sound of water. Moonlight sparkles through the canopy of leaves. The beast has taken me to a pond. Frogs hop amongst lily pads. Ribbit. Stomach growls. Make a gig out of branches and twine. Spear 3. Cut back of necks. Peel off skin. Use knife to cut through feet and hips. Legs are good. Moonlight is good. Dump in salt water. Start a fire. Burn the impurities. Feast beneath the stars. The tune of water is nice. It does not squelch. It does not cry. It simply flows. Night has seeped in. The beast will tire. Now is the time. Pack up supplies. Throw discarded frog bits to where the gray will come. Let it feast on the dead instead. Cross the river. Find trail. Blood patterns are more frequent. Not far. Put torch on shoulder. Count bullets. 4. Holster gun with strap loose. Draw spear. Listen. Leaves, wind, wine. The wine is not a cat. Draw nearer to animal. Blood pools in thick puddles. Wine is frequent. The beast is hurt enough to not be alarmed by the light. Keep it on. Something is tearing flesh. Sounds like the gray, but raw. It's chewing. Hide in bush. Close to the beast. Very close. The beast is not alarmed. Not by the light. Not by footsteps. Not by me. I face the beast beneath the light of my torch. The beast is not a cat. It's a dog, Great Dane, mouth stained with blood. Bullet hit right flank, bleeding under the moon. Alive. Barely. The squelching sound continues. Not the dog. Shine light towards it. Its eyes catch the light, but it does not move. It holds the remains of the white rabbit in its dark and thin fingers. Blood shines off the skin around the mouth, takes the rabbit, and bites into the guts raw. Its beady eyes look at me. Silent intrigue. I kneel to its level. It watches me without concern or care. A child. A human child. I rush to him. The dog growls and stands on its wounded leg. I raise my hands and cede. The dog rests and resumes its whines, not taking its eyes off me. There is no sign of the gray on the child. There is no sign of gray on the dog. Both are younger than the gray, Take off rucksack. Gather firewood. Build small fire. Child watches in awe. Dog is unbothered. Offer small berries to child. It smiles and takes them with bloodied hands. The child eats until it cannot and falls asleep. The dog rests where it lay. I take the rabbit and cut it to pieces. Cooking what's left, eating little, and saving the rest, I curl next to the fire and let sleep take me. The dog's barks startle me awake. Frequent yaps at something behind me. The child has taken my spear and points it behind me. The sun is overhead. I have slept too long. Twist in place. The gray surrounds me. Silver apparitions stand above. Shaped like humans, features like humans, but only gray. The dog barks more frequently. The child is near to tears, screaming. The gray has claimed my leg. Its crawl is slow. I thrust my leg free from the mold, but the gray has seeped into my skin. The child screams again, jabbing at the apparitions. It connects with one, but the apparition holds the spear tightly and pulls the child in. Don't think. Jump at apparition. Push child away. Apparition swallows me, wrapping my skin. Reach for gun. Bring to head. Bang. Nothing. Still here. Missed. Apparition pulls hand down. Kicks gun to the green to the child. The child stares at me. Nod to gun. Do it. First words I have uttered in years. Do it. The gray brings me to my knees. Apparitions all around. Touching, feeling, taking me. The mold crawls slow. Points of contact multiplying. Do it! The child picks up the gun and points it at me. Relief. I don't fight anymore, but the child does. Its hands tremble. The child's eyes are teary. It has not known me. Still, it weeps. I smile. It's okay. It's okay, little one. Let it happen. Bang.